World of Warcraft is a game played in many different ways. Some players chase high keys, some raid every week, and some just want to log in, relax, and exist in the world. The game often tells us that all those playstyles are valid. But when rewards enter the picture, it doesn't always feel that simple. Because even today, progression in World of Warcraft can quietly push players towards content they might not actually enjoy. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I do want to start by saying that Blizzard has gotten much better at this. Credit where credit is due, we've come a long way since Shadowlands. But there are still remnants of the older design, and gearing is one of the clearest examples. I am primarily a Mythic Plus player, yet if I want to push to the level that I aspire to, I'd honestly be hurting my own progress if I didn't pick up at least one of the best tank trinkets from the raid. And that raises a simple question. Why is that still necessary? I'm doing keys. That's the content I engage with the most. And in 2026, raids simply aren't what keeps most players in WoW. And it's not hard to understand why either. Raiding asks for long scheduled sessions. It asks for large groups of coordinated players. And for many people with work, studies, or unpredictable schedules, that kind of commitment just isn't realistic. I don't really have a traditional 9-to-5 routine myself, which makes it difficult to promise a guild 2 or 3 fixed raid nights every single week. And I know that I'm far from the only player in that situation. The reality is that most WoW players today aren't teenagers anymore. They're adults with limited and unpredictable time schedules. I've found myself in the same position every season. Pushed towards an older reward structure doesn't really match how I play the game. Yes, after thousands of hours of WoW, I can usually pug my way through at least heroic raids to get the items I need, but that still means spending hours and hours in content that isn't the reason I log in the first place. Just so I can properly play the content that is what I want to do. And that makes me wonder, should progression in WoW still work this way? Because if we look at how most players engage with the game today, Mythic Plus and other flexible content are far more central than traditional raiding. So I've been thinking about a different approach to rewards and a possible solution. Let me explain the idea, and then I'd really love to hear what you think. I want to start by looking at another game I play from time to time, Final Fantasy XIV. And before anyone jumps into the comments, I'm not saying WoW should copy 14 exactly. In fact, I think 14's gearing has several problems of its own. But there is one system it uses that I think WoW could learn from, currency-based gear progression. In 14, you earn tombstones by doing different kinds of content. Once you have enough, you simply go to a vendor in the capital city and buy the weapon or armor piece you want. Now, 14 heavily time gates this system, which creates its own frustrations, and I won't get into that here. But keep the core idea in mind as we return to World of Warcraft. Because in my opinion, the solution in WoW might be very simple. Last season in the War Within, we had the turbo boost system, with mixed receptions to be fair. For anyone unfamiliar with the system, there's added vendors later in the season where completing a few activities like dungeons or raids, it would reward currency that could be exchanged for raid or dungeon gear. We've seen various alterations of this idea multiple times across Dragonflight and the War Within. And WoW has also introduced crests as a way to upgrade the gear. So here's my question. What if those currencies weren't only for upgrading gear, but for buying it? Instead of late season catch-up systems that suddenly hand out best-in-slot items and make earlier efforts feel utterly meaningless, what if progression through currency was relevant throughout the entire season? What if pushing high keys rewarded meaningful currency? just like Mythic raiders pushing the hardest bosses? What if players could simply engage with the content they enjoy the most and still progress toward the gear they need? I mean, PvP players already have something close to this, so why doesn't Mythic Plus players have it too? Of course, balance would matter. A +2 key shouldn't be rewarded with Mythic raid level gear, but maybe it could be rewarded with normal level gear. The same idea could be applied to delves. Higher difficulty, higher tier currency, matching rewards. I don't know, maybe I'm completely out of touch, but from where I'm standing, this feels like a surprisingly straightforward way to let players progress without forcing them into content they don't enjoy. Let players play the game however they want, but still work towards the goal they aspire to. So why does WoW still push players towards content they don't actually want to do? The honest answer is, I don't really know. Maybe Blizzard still wants raiding to feel like their true endgame. Maybe they never expected M+ to become so popular it has become. I guess raids also carry major story moments, and they're still one of the most unique group experiences the game has to offer. But you would think Blizzard could have adjusted to that by now. It's obviously possible that Blizzard has future plans to make raiding more accessible in ways we just haven't seen yet. But even with all that in mind, I still wonder why a more flexible reward system couldn't exist alongside it. Not to replace raids, but to let different kinds of players progress through the content they actually enjoy. Because at the end of the day, World of Warcraft is strongest when it respects the many different ways people choose to play it. And maybe that's the real question here. Should progression follow the player, or should the player still have to follow progression? I'd really love to hear what you guys think about that. And before we end, I just want to say thank you. In only a week, these videos have received far more attention than I ever expected. I really appreciate everyone who's been watching, leaving comments, and subscribing. It honestly means a lot. If you enjoy this kind of WoW content, I'd be grateful to have you stick around. I'll do my best to keep making more of these. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.